This is my ranking of the best city builders on PS5 that I've played, based purely on my personal experience. Each one is placed from masterpiece to trash depending on how deep the city systems are and how fun the building and management feel. Let's get straight into the list. Anno 1800 is a city building strategy title set during the Industrial Revolution. We're expanding islands, constructing production chains, establishing trade routes, managing growing populations, and balancing several social classes all shape the development of a thriving empire across land and sea. After spending time with it, I realized every decision affected something else, so I had to think several steps ahead instead of rushing my expansion. Watching factories supply new industries while ships connected distant islands made each session more satisfying. I liked adjusting production whenever shortages appeared, because solving those problems kept my cities growing without slowing everything down. The deeper I went, the more rewarding the economy became, especially once trade networks and advanced industries started working together smoothly. Even after many hours, I kept discovering smarter layouts and better ways to improve efficiency without making everything complicated. It easily secures its place in my excellent tier. Frostpunk is a survival city builder, set in a frozen world where every building depends on a massive generator for warmth. Expanding the settlement, gathering limited resources, researching technology, passing strict laws, and protecting citizens from endless cold all determine whether humanity survives another day. As I spent more time with it, I realized this was much more than keeping houses warm. Every choice forced me to sacrifice something valuable, and there was never an easy answer. I kept weighing extra coal against food, longer work shifts against public trust, and short-term survival against future stability. Watching my city survive another brutal storm always felt rewarding because I knew every difficult decision helped make it possible. The constant pressure never disappeared, which made every success feel hard-earned instead of automatic. I still think it delivers some of the toughest leadership decisions I have faced in a city builder. It stands proudly in my excellent tier. Against the Storm is a dark fantasy city builder where settlements are built across dangerous wilderness while relentless storms threaten survival. Every expedition starts with different resources, races, and objectives, requiring careful planning, efficient production, trade, exploration, and constant adaptation instead of relying on the same strategy every time. Once I understood that every settlement demanded a different approach, the entire design clicked with me. I had to work with whatever resources I discovered instead of forcing my favorite layout, and that made every run feel fresh. Balancing the needs of different races while dealing with dangerous forest clearings kept me thinking far ahead without becoming frustrating. I also liked leaving a completed settlement behind and building another because each new expedition introduced fresh challenges instead of repeating familiar routines. Even after many successful settlements, I still wanted to see what the next map would demand from me. It belongs in my masterpiece tier. Surviving Mars is a sci-fi city builder where a small colony must grow into a self-sustaining settlement on the Red Planet. Managing oxygen, water, power, food production, research, resource extraction, and the needs of colonists is essential, while unpredictable disasters and limited supplies constantly threaten survival. After spending enough time learning its systems, I realized rushing anything usually ended badly. Every expansion had to be planned because a single shortage could create problems across the entire colony. I liked exploring Mars with rovers, discovering anomalies, and unlocking research that gradually opened better ways to keep everyone alive. Watching my colony recover after difficult setbacks felt rewarding because every successful solution came from lessons I learned through earlier failures. Even after losing several colonies, I wanted another attempt, since every run encouraged smarter planning and different strategies. It settled into my great tier. Fabledom combines classic city-building systems with fairy tale charm, letting a small settlement grow into a lively kingdom through resource production, construction, workforce management, and citizen happiness. Hero adventures, neighboring rulers, and kingdom relationships add extra layers beyond simply expanding the town itself. Once my settlement became larger, I appreciated how easy it was to understand every system without feeling overwhelmed. Managing workers, improving homes, and keeping citizens happy stayed enjoyable because I could adjust things without being buried under endless menus. I also liked sending my hero on adventures while my kingdom continued expanding, since it added something different between building projects. I only wish those events and relationships had more variety because they started repeating after a while. Even with that limitation, I always found it relaxing to return and slowly improve my kingdom at my own pace. It deserves a spot in my good tier. SteamWorld Build mixes city building with underground mining, placing a colony of steampunk robots on a distant planet searching for resources to construct a rocket. Expanding the settlement, managing production, exploring dangerous mines, and balancing both surface and underground operations are equally important for success. Once I unlocked the mining side of the colony, everything became much more interesting. I had to keep my town running smoothly while making sure my miners had the equipment and supplies needed to dig deeper for valuable resources. I liked switching between building above ground and improving the underground operation because it stopped the pacing from becoming repetitive. The relaxed approach also meant I could experiment with different layouts without feeling punished for every mistake. While I wanted more challenge and variety in the maps, the satisfying mix of city management and mining kept bringing me back for another session. It easily claims a place in my excellent tier. Republic of Pirates combines city building, resource management, naval exploration, and sea battles as a small island outpost grows into a powerful pirate republic. Expanding the settlement, supplying workers, constructing fleets, gathering valuable resources, and challenging rival factions all contribute to building a thriving stronghold across the Caribbean. As my settlement expanded, I enjoyed how the city management connected naturally with sailing across the sea. Building new ships never felt like a separate activity, because every successful voyage helped strengthen my island with fresh resources and valuable rewards. I also liked having a story pushing everything forward instead of building without a purpose, which made every new objective worth chasing. The city building system stayed easy to understand, and while I wanted deeper economic management later on, the relaxing pace made it easy to lose track of time. Sailing back to my growing pirate haven after another successful expedition was always satisfying. It sails away with a place in my great tier. The Wandering Village builds an entire settlement on the back of a giant living creature that travels across a dangerous post-apocalyptic landscape. Expanding the village, producing food, researching new technology, scavenging distant locations, and caring for the enormous Onbu are all necessary to keep both the settlement and its living home alive. After spending time with it, I realized the relationship with Onbu was what made everything stand out. I wasn't only managing buildings and resources because I also had to feed it, heal it, and decide where it should travel next. Watching my village move through different environments kept changing how I approached farming and planning, which stopped the management from feeling repetitive. The slower pace sometimes tested my patience, especially while waiting for projects to finish, but the relaxing atmosphere always encouraged me to keep building. Few city builders felt this creative, and I happily returned whenever I wanted something calm. It comfortably lands in my great tier. Citadelum revives the style of classic Roman city builders by combining settlement management with economic planning, world exploration, military expansion, and the influence of powerful gods. Growing a small village into a prosperous city requires careful resource production, trade, infrastructure, and balancing the needs of an expanding population. As my city became larger, I found myself paying attention to much more than roads and production chains. Sending legions across the world map, unlocking new opportunities, and dealing with the unpredictable gods added extra decisions that kept every stage interesting. I enjoyed watching my settlement transform from a handful of buildings into a busy Roman city, filled with temples, markets, and thriving districts. The divine blessings created exciting moments, even if the punishments sometimes disrupted carefully planned progress. While the combat never reached the same depth as the city management, the different systems worked together well enough that I always wanted to keep expanding. It deserves a place in my excellent tier. Laysara. Summit Kingdom is a mountain settlement builder that revolves around expanding villages, managing production chains, transporting resources with yaks, and developing temples across different elevations. Expanding villages, creating efficient production chains, managing yak caravans, and constructing magnificent temples require careful planning across steep mountains with very little room for mistakes. I quickly realized this was less about building the biggest city and more about solving one logistical puzzle after another. Finding the best places for every structure and keeping resources moving efficiently across the mountain was surprisingly satisfying, especially once my yak caravans became the backbone of the economy. I also enjoyed how each mountain encouraged a different layout instead of letting me rely on the same strategy every time. The amount of clicking eventually became tiring as my settlement grew larger, but the clever design, relaxing atmosphere, and rewarding planning kept me invested from one challenge to the next. It earns a well-deserved place in my great tier. Before We Leave revolves around rebuilding civilization across hexagonal islands and planets through resource management, technological research, settlement expansion, citizen well-being, and space colonization. Exploration, production chains, road networks, and efficient planning gradually transform small communities into thriving societies spread across an entire solar system. I appreciated how relaxing everything felt because I could focus entirely on improving my settlements without worrying about constant attacks or defending against enemies. Expanding onto new islands and planets kept introducing fresh goals, while keeping my citizens happy made every decision matter without becoming stressful. I also liked how the slower pace encouraged me to think about efficient layouts instead of rushing through every objective. It did become a little repetitive once my cities were running smoothly, but the calm atmosphere and satisfying progression made it easy to keep playing for long sessions. It finds its place in my good tier. The Colonists is a robot-themed settlement management game where automated workers gather resources, construct buildings, establish production chains, expand across islands, and unlock new technology through efficient logistics. Roads, boats, trains, and carefully organized transport networks keep materials moving as the colony steadily grows into a large industrial society. I spent far more time improving production lines than worrying about expanding as quickly as possible. Every new road, warehouse, and transport route made the entire colony run better, and fixing inefficient layouts was surprisingly satisfying. I also liked how the relaxed mode let me experiment without pressure, giving me time to understand how every resource connected to the next. The combat mode never matched the quality of the city building, but it was easy to ignore because the management systems were strong enough to carry the entire experience. It comfortably secures a place in my excellent tier. Surviving the Aftermath is a post-apocalyptic colony management game where a small group of survivors rebuild civilization by gathering resources, constructing shelters, researching technology, exploring the wasteland with specialists, and protecting the settlement from dangerous catastrophes. Trade, expansion, and careful planning gradually turn a fragile camp into a self-sustaining community. I liked how survival always stayed at the center of every decision because resources never felt guaranteed, and every disaster forced me to rethink my plans. Sending specialists into the world to uncover supplies and establish outposts added another layer beyond simply managing the colony itself. The steady pace of unlocking new buildings kept me motivated, even though many of the mechanics felt familiar after spending time with other colony builders. I also wish the random events offered more variety, but the constant struggle to keep everyone alive remained satisfying from beginning to end. It ultimately earns its place in my good tier. Worshippers of Cthulhu is a dark city-building strategy game where a growing cult establishes settlements, gathers resources, performs forbidden rituals, expands across isolated islands, and manages the balance between devotion, fanaticism, and the awakening of an ancient cosmic entity. Population growth, production chains, exploration, and supernatural powers all shape the path of your expanding civilization. I liked how the Lovecraft theme wasn't just for atmosphere, but was woven directly into the management systems, making every major decision feel different from a traditional city builder. Choosing when to perform rituals or push my followers further always came with risks, which kept me thinking ahead instead of simply expanding as fast as possible. The learning curve was steeper than I expected, but once everything clicked, the management became incredibly rewarding. Its unique setting and layered mechanics easily earned it a place in my excellent tier. Buildlands is a relaxing block-building puzzle game where players recreate colorful islands by arranging terrain blocks, buildings, decorations, and natural features across layered grids until every section matches the original layout. New levels gradually introduce additional pieces and larger designs, while a creative editor allows players to craft and share custom islands with the community. I found it easy to jump into whenever I wanted something calm because there was no pressure, time limit, or punishment for making mistakes. Watching each island slowly come together was satisfying, and the colorful visuals made every completed build look charming. The gameplay loop did become repetitive after a while, since most levels followed the same structure, and I wish there were more mechanics to keep things fresh. It remained a pleasant way to relax, which is why it earns a spot in my great tier. SUMMERHOUSE is a cozy, creative building sandbox where players assemble charming houses using walls, roofs, windows, doors, plants, and decorative objects across a variety of colorful pixel art settings. Every scene is built freely without objectives or time limits, allowing simple structures to grow into unique neighborhoods shaped entirely by your imagination. I enjoyed having complete freedom to experiment because there was no pressure to optimize layouts or complete specific tasks. Rearranging pieces and adding small details made each build feel more personal, and the peaceful atmosphere made it easy to relax for a while. The lack of goals meant the gameplay could become repetitive during longer sessions, and I also wish the controls felt smoother when placing objects. The creativity, relaxing presentation, and satisfying building tools still make it worthy of my excellent tier. That wraps up my ranking of the best city builders on PS5. If there's another city builder you think deserves a place on this list, let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.